Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're all doing well, and welcome to the showdown between the Warriors of Chaos and Dwarves here on Crystal Lake. We're back at it with Festus, who's going to be stealing all the goodies from Slaanesh and Norska in this update, which, man, Warriors of Chaos are going to be eating so well. So Dreadmaws are a very good unit. I think that they're so disruptive, especially against range factions. If you're playing against, like, Cathay, against Dwarves, against Empire, anybody that you're expecting artillery, or you're expecting any sort of range unit, they can just burrow behind enemy lines. They can pop up. Your opponent reacts. You either use your deep burrow to dig away, or you just do regular burrow, move. And it really, like, even if the Dreadmaw is just like straight up sitting under their army, it's forcing them to worry about it, apply micro attention back there, and, even allocate a unit to defend something. So a cannon plus a Slayer is going to be what, like 1,800 gold, give or take. So having the Dreadmaw back there alone can occupy so many resources of your opponent. So two of them might be overkill in some matchups since they don't have any capture weight and they do cost 1,000 gold, but I honestly think they're so incredibly good. Warriors of Chaos also got access to Champions of Slaanesh, which I think are, they're expensive, but they can really buzzsaw through infantry. If you guys have ever seen the Dead Alive movie by Peter Jackson, so the guy who did Lord of the Rings, obviously. He did like a horror movie back, I think it was like in the 90s at some point, maybe late 80s, can't remember, but basically, they're like lawnmowing zombies in that with an actual lawnmower. And these things just buzzsaw through any infantry. We're talking like Longbeards, Dwarf Warriors, any of those units get massacred so quickly. Now, very weak against cannons and Iron Drake, Trollhammer torpedoes, and Slayers. But if you can avoid those targets with their 65 speed, they can do some work. So we got Festus. I figured the idea was, let's get Festus with his healing aura to heal up the Champions of Slaanesh, much like you would do with Wrathmongers, for example. But, sadly, we didn't get Wrathmongers here. Probably for the best, honestly. Like, I could imagine some degenerate builds, like with Warriors of Chaos. Having, like, Festus and, like, double Wrathmonger with, like, a Mortis blob and then a healing blob on the objective would be awful. Yeah, like, why is that? Why did they get Champions of Slaanesh, but then they didn't get Wrathmongers, which are, like, the exact equivalent on another faction, basically? It's kind of a strange one, but weird things. All right, so for the Dwarf army here, it's going to be Dwarf Warriors. We have a Flame Cannon, a regular cannon, double Dragon Slayer, which is a great choice, considering my affinity for Dreadmaws. Malachi McKyson, backline's going to be Longbeards, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is basically going to be it. So we're going to do some fast forwarding. While we posture, the dreaded Dreadmaws are going to be swimming around. Your opponents can't see them until they get very close. When the Dreadmaws are like more or less this distance, or I think a little bit closer, they can then see them in the ground. So they kind of have like a bit of a stock built in, but they would probably be really OP if you could just never see where they were until they popped up. That would be pretty cracked. So they're moving up. Chaos Warrior Great Weapons grabbing the objective here, and we do have the Pleasure Guard as well as the Champions of Slaanesh who are going to be hanging out. Now moving into the back line, we're going to move in. Giant Slayer's coming out, and you can see my opponent here does see the Dreadmaws creeping. Oh, you can hear the sound effects. Oh, that's so good. That is such a nice touch right there. I wonder if in campaign battles, if Dreadmaws can like go under gatehouses and just like go to the back. Although they don't have any capture weight, so even if they did go back there. So the first Trouser Snake has popped up, and it's going to be attacking the Dwarven artillery crew there. And it does some nice knockback, and you can see it does some okay damage. Granted, it's better at shutting down like traditional range units. I think the artillery crews still would be able to shoot to a decent extent. But they have 10,000 HP, which is an absolute steal for their price point, in my opinion. And we do see the Dragon Slayer going after it, but they do burrow, and the burrow is a 20-second cooldown. So they can pop onto the ground, but in that case, I used their long-term cooldown ability, which is the Deep Burrow, jumped into the front line, baited out some blasting charges here, and now Festus and the Warriors are going to be getting in. But the Dwarves have been punishing me pretty good with their range. Their Flame Cannons melted my Chaos Warriors here, and now they're going to be shooting into Festus and doing quite a bit of work. Champions of Slaanesh moving around the flank, just got to watch out for the Dragon Slayers. The Champions of Slaanesh are going to annihilate these Dwarven infantry. It's going to be really, really brutal. You can see here that the Dwarven miners, mad casualties already, have taken 12, 13, 14 casualties, and they keep creeping up. And the Dreadmaw is just going to keep microing about. Definitely a bit of a micro attack with those units. You got to be, there's something that are very easy to forget. You can leave them in the ground. But we do call out the Chimera. So Chimera is insanely good. We got a breath attack there, I believe, but I think he dodged it. So now we're going to use the Chimera as well as the Dreadmaw to try and take down the Flame Cannon. And so far, the tag team of the gods is working relatively well. So we have the Dwarves partially stuffed here, but unfortunately they were able to get one objective, which kind of makes the strategy a little bit more dangerous. Now in terms of the value trading, it's relatively even. I am slightly behind, which is very normal when you're rushing a Dwarven position. But also, considering I'm playing single entity play and using the Dreadmaws, for example, he's going to have a lot of value sunk into the Dreadmaws, which isn't necessarily going to be changing the tide of the battle. I do get broken up here pretty good, though. The advent of the Giant Slayers forces me back, so Festus is going to be running, but he's not happy right now. He's getting shot by cannons. Chaos Warrior Great Weapons doing great work, as they usually do. Other Chaos Warriors here getting worn down, and the Dreadmaws and the Chimeras are going to be doing their best to shut things down while I try and sneak around the back with the Hellstrider, but he does get a nice shot on me here with the Iron Drake Trollhammer torpedoes. while the other Dreadmaw does use its deep burrow ability to pop up. Nice AoE damage on those bad boys, and is going to continue ripping and tearing. Definitely one of the most fun units to use. In campaign, I don't know how it would go in campaign. What you could theoretically do is stack like 20 Dreadmaws together and then just like unburrow them all at the same time and just like then teleport them all on another target at the same time. I'm sure there's some shenanigans. Granted, I think there's going to be more effective like Doomstack-ish armies in campaign. Coming across though, Chimera is going to be trying to get on top of the cannons here, and the Dreadmaw does pop up here on top of the cannon crew. And now I'm getting hunted. So this is really scary. I mean, if I lose Festus here, I'm in big danger. So the double champions of Slaanesh are going to be coming across. And we're just going to be doing a little blitz charge, but, you know, Giant Slayers will really bully champions of Slaanesh. But, you know, they'll give it back as well. We move into the big charge there, get a nice little impact, do some damage. But really what you want is Forsaken. Tell me what you want, what you really want. Well, it's Forsaken on top of Giant Slayers. Giant Slayers have lowish melee defense, 0 armor. Forsaken hit really hard against light armor. So in this case, we buy some time for Festus. We get the Forsaken on top of the appropriate target. But the Dwarves ever annoying with their split capping here. Rangers coming in as well as Miners with blasting charges towards Objective 1 to try and grab what they can. Multiple Forsaken units being called out for myself. Meanwhile, the Dreadmaws just being a menace on the backfield. They are very annoying. My opponent definitely needed the Grimdelvers to come in. Grimdelvers would be very nice to Vanguard spawn here. We do get some Rangers, which are doing okay damage. Dreadmaws themselves, I think, do have some missile mitigation. Let's see, 25%, pretty good. But the Chimera able to rip and tear right there on the cannon. So the cannon's offline, the flame cannon's offline as well. And now Festus is going to get rallied. And what I was doing is while Festus was retreating, I was using the champions of Slaanesh to actually heal near him. So I was just parking them near Festus so they could get his healing elixirs. And yeah, it's good value. I mean, they're going to be definitely quite happy about that. Now, my top objective is getting ninja'd. That was not fun considering I'm still down in value. But in the meantime, we still have the Dreadmaws rampaging in the backfield, some of them being shot. My Trouser Snakes getting a little bit low here as they are being blasted by the Troll Armor Torpedo. And again, they can't move. You have to burrow back into the ground and then pop up here in a second, which we will be doing. And we do the deep burrow over here, I think. No, that was a different one just popping up. Okay, so this one's going to be hiding for a minute. Chaos Warriors pushing into the backfield here while we get Forsaken and Champions of Slaanesh to really just maneuver about and try and make sure I can hold on to my 2 objectives. And something I realized in this game is that, you know, Malachi is a pretty mediocre fighter. He's okay, but the Chimera is going to be able to bully him. The Chimera hits really hard, 520 weapon strength, also, of course, poison. Fire damage not going to be relevant here, but my opponent does a nice job of getting the Dragon Slayer on top of the appropriate target. So Chaos Warrior Grey Uppin's doing awesome work here. Forsaken moving in, and Champions of Slaanesh basically just going to be using their mobility to punish the Dwarves on a big map like this. Obviously, probably, like, if you were going to use Champions of Slaanesh against Dwarves, probably would be best to bring just 1 in the beginning. I think 2 is a little bit hardcore with 2 Dreadmaws, but we'll see if we can make it work. So these guys moving in, getting blasting charged, but they do have 60 armor, so they're not helpless against it. You can see they took a little bit, but yeah, it's going to be the end of these Dwarves. They're going to get whiplash pretty good by those lead infantry. And Champions of Slaanesh are like 1,800 gold or 15, 16. I think the ROR is 1,800. I think the basic ones are like 15 or 16. So the blasting charge boys do go down, but now this gets a little bit sketchy for me as we do get the gyro bombers coming in, and that's going to be a beautiful bombardment going right there. In a minute, no, he flies back in just a second. I remember in the game looking over and being like, God damn! So they shart all over my poor Forsaken, so those guys get the business. And the Chimera is going to be detaching from its fight and going to chase down the Skyhammer, seeing if we can catch it there. Forsaken coming across and looking to the backfield. Dreadmaw still just being annoying. Now, eventually what's cool about them is you can move them onto an objective, and, you know, the objective is a very small area, more or less, right? So they can be pretty effective on those points. Champions of Slaanesh going to be trying to penetrate into the backfield while Festus makes his way around, so he's going to be cruising towards Objective 2. Chimera is a little bit slower, I think, than the Skyhammer because it is wounded, so it's not going to be able to catch it per se, but it can keep the pressure on it, so if it stops and shoots, you can then bring that bad boy down. Moving up is old Festus, Forsaken coming. I see my opponent resurging here in the middle with some Longbeards, Dwarf Warriors, Dragon Slayer, and Giant Slayers, but I know I have the advantage here because Forsaken will be good against most of these things. I have the Champions of Slaanesh, which are a hard counter against all these infantry, and Festus will be able to heal and or Mortis Engine on the Dwarves, which is going to be great. Looking in the backfield, Pleasure Guard, the unbreakable ROR of the champs, are really good. I think they're the ones that, if you're going to be seeing this unit, it will be these ones, due to the fact that they're unbreakable, and that'll make them a very nasty diving piece, and also a good staying power at grinding on objectives. Now, they're considered monstrous infantry, so as monstrous infantry, they would not have, they would only have 3 capture weight, not 4 or 5, you know, like cavalry or actual infantry. Dreadmaw back here, attacking into the Slayers, and the Slayer's going to be piecing out. This thing is going to be sitting at 3,400 HP, but immediately losing a whole bunch as the Trollhammer torpedoes do shoot into them. I believe when these guys break, I actually haven't had one break, but Yeah, they just shatter instantly and basically run off the battlefield, or they don't do anything. So as it should be. I mean, if they burrowed when they broke and could rally from there, that'd be super obnoxious. So back in the middle, we get a big pit fight. We do get the Hellstriders and the Champs fighting with the Fleshy Abundance going down. So Slaanesh and Nurgle, high-fiving right now, which is great, Kind of a bit of an antithesis to one another, but in some ways they're both kind of gnarly and, they love each other's company. So, Festus, bumping and draining here. Forsaken going to be cruising in, getting a nice little swarm on these guys. Forsaken are good against dwarves, actually really good. You wouldn't think that they would be one of the premier infantry units here, but due to the fact they have 85 armor, it makes them cost-effective against the chaff. And then against Slayers, which are very, very common in this matchup, they actually defeat them. Of course, a Dwarf Warrior Great Weapon will uptrade into a Forsaken, but in general, they're still very good. So Marauders coming in, Chaos Warriors with Great Weapons, Forsaken, going to be charging into the Giant Slayers right here. So we got the big Apocalyptic Charge coming in, as those Forsaken do get in with their big Pimp Claws and going to be ripping and tearing. I don't know who actually wins in a straight fight. I think the Giant Slayers might pull it out, but they are quite a bit more expensive, and they will take a lot of damage. So it's one of the more cost-effective ways. Now, Festus has his healing elixirs on. Champions of Slaanesh have moved out of range, unfortunately, but have been continuing to get a lot of kills. 128 kills against dwarves is not bad. Dreadmaw's in the back, and Champions of Slaanesh have been able to clean up most of the threats. At this point, I'm kind of like, I need to get this objective back. It's a situation where he can win on just 2, or at least be very, very close. He does have his little shooting line right here, so the Gyro Bomber just using its machine gun. I'm pretty sure it used most of its bombardments, and Malachi McKyson was shooting, but it looks like he turned his attention somewhere else. Pleasure Guard going to be ripping up these long-drawn Slayer Pirates, and there are 11 of them, but I mean, man, talk about getting buzzsawed right there, man. Straight up lawnmowers. And the other Dreadmaw just going to burrow past their homies like, hey, you guys have fun. I'm going to go back to the middle and enjoy my life, and we do manage to start flipping the middle objective here. Some Marauders, Great Weapons, Champions of Slaanesh, Forsaken, and Festus doing their best to anchor the position while the Dreadmaw is going to arrive, and that will be giving me a very, very nice burst of damage. And also Dreadmaws do cause terror, so that's something that's useful, right? Just kind of this mobile terror piece that is very, very safe. I do think you're going to be seeing Dreadmaws in competitive. I think they will change the dynamic of a lot of matchups in which you think you have safe ranged that you can kind of defend, but now you have to worry about the Dreadmaw. So I think like Grimdelver tech would be very good. Grimdelvers could like chunk like half their health if they pop up and they have stock. So keeping a Grimdelver kind of mysteriously in your backfield, but Dreadmaw players will probably start looking for your Grimdelvers with their Dreadmaws before they pop up. So yeah, it'll be really interesting to see the game of cat and mouse here. So the Dreadmaw is getting the healing elixirs from Festus. Stream of Corruption going to be going down from the big man, but the big man is in danger. He's being shot by the Gyrocopters here. So you can see he is most likely going to be killed here in a minute, as the Skyhammer Squadron is also moving in to try and deal with him. Champions of Slaanesh eating some DACA there, but overall doing good. And I did see an opportunity here to actually press his objective here. I was like, all he has is Malachi McKyson and some Chaff Miners, so let's get some Forsaken and maneuver these units over. So the Champions of Slaanesh are insanely good at killing infantry characters. If you see a character like Malachi sitting there and you have like a relatively healthy unit of champions, or even like 12, 11 models, whatever, you're going to see Malachi get karate chopped pretty bad here in a second by those guys. Not necessarily killed, but good damage. So Festus about to break, so we are going to be trading Lords using the Champions of Slaanesh to intercept the Chaff units. And we do see them coming around. The Pleasure Guard, these guys are really, really brutal. So they're going to get in, and immediately you're going to see a lot of HP going off Malachi. That was like 700-800 HP, and he's going to be dropping very quickly. I mean, it makes sense. These guys, 120 apiece, and there's 4 of those models hitting him in very rapid succession. So basically that's like having a legendary Lord with a huge bonus versus infantry and super high melee attack hitting you. So yeah, he's going to get worked down there. That objective is going to be flipping to us, and both the Dreadmaws are chilling. Festus does get killed there, so that is the Troll Toll being paid on my end. But the Champs, and this is why I think they're kind of nice against Dwarves, and maybe as like a 1-pick. In the late game, you guys know how Dwarves like to roll. They just spam a ton of cheap, shitty Chaff units to just, try and target the objectives again and get back in the game. But having the Champs to just like insta-kill them, I think is maybe going to be a decent option. So down goes Malachi, taken down by the Pleasure Guard, and we do have a Dragon Slayer here, but that's basically going to be it. Not really much of a chance for the Dwarves at this point. We have the Pleasure Guard, we have another Champ of Slaanesh who's pretty healthy, just farming these Dwarven infantry. We have 2 Dreadmaws here as well, and a relatively healthy unit of Chaos Warrior. So that is going to be a triple cap, ladies and gentlemen. My opponent does get a cannon out, but that is going to be all she wrote. So yeah, really fun match. Just kind of testing the feel of having these units in the Warriors of Chaos roster. Yeah, I love it. I mean, I think it's something I'll definitely like. I feel like almost every build I would play with Walk would include 1 Dreadmaw. 2 is a little bit excessive at times, but 1 is just so annoying and so just such a troll thing. Although against other melee aggression factions, it might not be good. Like against Khorne, against Nurgle, probably not. Like I probably wouldn't bring a Dreadmaw there. But against like ranged factions who will have any sort of an archer or a gun or artillery piece, they do seem very obnoxious. The champs did okay. I mean, the ROR 2,700, but that's because they took down Malachi. 1,200 on the other one, didn't quite pay for itself, and the other champion got about 600. Chimera really clutched it at 1,800 there. And yeah, the cannons, you know, if I wasn't able to shut those down, they probably would have done a lot more damage. 900 here. It's like a John Madden. You know, if you can't score a touchdown if you don't run the ball in the end zone. Which is like the most obvious shit ever. Yeah, Dragon Slayers did good. Really, honestly, just like a Grim Delver in his backfield popping up and blasting my Trouser Snake, and I think I'm kind of cooked, to be honest with you. GG, well played. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that one. We'll be back with more games soon. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be it for today.